Swadikap, good afternoon once again. Today is Friday, the 14th of May, 2021. First, I'll start off by saying that after the briefing that I'll be delivering today at around 1:15 p.m., we'll be having the Director General of the Department of Disease Control come and give us more information, sort of like a briefing, regarding the latest updates on the management plan, which will include the vaccine plan as well. Now, we realize that a lot of you are waiting for the details of the vaccination plan rollout, the management, how that will come into play for the general population, including foreign nationals. So after the Director General of the Disease Control Department delivers his information in the session that we'll be following here, perhaps tomorrow we can recap that for you. Also, we will also be having meetings during the weekend, tomorrow and Sunday as well, within the CCSA, in order to adjust the various measures that had been put in place around 14 days ago. If you recall, the readjustment and realigning of the various zones, including Bangkok, including the measures regarding no dine-in in Bangkok in restaurants. Now, we'll be discussing this and we'll be announcing this tomorrow on the most updated changes and adjustment in this regard, which may possibly include that restaurants in the highly controlled and strict areas, restaurants in Bangkok, will possibly be able to dine in the near future. But we're talking about that and the provincial, the adjustment of the provincial categorization as well. So starting off first with the numbers for today, new confirmed case, we have 2,256, out of which 183 are inmates in prisons. Now, if you recall, yesterday we had a very alarming high number, but most of it, around 2,000 out of the 4,000 plus, were actually from within the prisons, the inmates within the prisons. Now, we have today 1,701 new recoveries and 2,256 new cases, as you see on screen. The active cases in Thailand currently being treated is 33,186. We have 30 new fatalities, unfortunately, making the cumulative at 548. Most of the fatalities recorded for today are elderly patients with underlying diseases like kidney diseases, heart diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, for example. And there is one case of death recorded for today of a 15-year-old bedridden patient with brain abnormality. The majority of these patients contracted the virus from family members or had visited high-risk provinces. In Bangkok and some nearby provinces of Bangkok, they remain to be the hotspot. They remain to be at high risk. And continued efforts will be concentrated in this area to prevent the spread of the virus to other provinces. As mentioned earlier, the provinces outside of Bangkok have seen a more stable situation, and the hotspot remains in Bangkok to date. And prevailing cases were found in crowded residential sites and wet markets, and among people in close contact with patients, and among migrant workers in construction sites as well. Now, according to the statistics in Bangkok and nearby provinces, about half of the confirmed cases have mild symptoms, while 1/3 are asymptomatic. The rest of the patients have moderate and severe symptoms, and therefore residents in these areas are strongly advised to remain vigilant and strictly adhere to the DMHTT practices for your own and for everyone's safety. Yesterday also, the Food and Drug Administration granted emergency use approval for the Moderna vaccine. It's the fourth coronavirus vaccine approved so far in Thailand after AstraZeneca, Sinovac, and Johnson & Johnson. And its use is valid for 1 year according to the FDA. The Thai government has the policy to ensure access to safe and high quality COVID-19 vaccines for everyone in Thailand on a voluntary basis. The government's target is to vaccinate 50 million people in Thailand, or 70% of the population, and residents using 100 million doses of vaccines by the end of this year. Now, 63 million doses have been secured, while an additional 37 million doses are in the pipeline of procurement. And next year, the government will procure another 50 million doses to cover the whole country. In addition, the National Vaccine Board approved yesterday a policy with the additional target of procuring vaccines, 150 million vaccines, as mentioned, by 2022. And discussions with the vaccine manufacturers have been accelerated regarding the development of second-generation vaccines, which cover COVID variants. And this discussion also covers the transfer of technology and supporting research on vaccines in the country. The Health Ministry will be ready to vaccinate people across the country in the various schemes to be prepared. And as I mentioned, the Director General of the CDC will be talking in detail on this today. There are also guidelines which have been set under the planned vaccination program. Firstly, as I mentioned, increasing the number of vaccines from the original target of 100 to 150 million doses. Second, facilitating a more proactive approach in negotiating with multiple manufacturers in order to increase vaccine doses and to accelerate the process. And thirdly, adjusting the COVID-19 vaccine program by prioritizing the first vaccine dose as much as possible to mitigate the risk of infection, disease severity, and health and death. So following the improvement of the situation in a number of provinces, as I mentioned, we are considering to revise the list of provinces in each situation area, the maximum and strict control zone, the maximum control zone, and the control zone, the three colors if you recall. And it is proposed that less provinces will be in the maximum and strict control zones. We'll perhaps reduce the number of provinces in this dark red zone. And restriction measures will be relaxed accordingly. Which province will be in which category, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Possibly also about the dine-in in restaurants, perhaps that will be approved for tomorrow, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow. And further details as soon as it's finalized. So just to recap, just in closing, aside from, please stay tuned for the information that the DG of the CDC will be talking about right after my presentation. We'll recap that for you tomorrow as well. Just to say that every cloud has a silver lining. In this difficult situation we're facing together, we have to continue to care for each other in Thai society. As my colleague, Director Penso, mentioned yesterday in the English language briefing, there have been collaborative efforts in all segments of society in Thailand. And today, just like to present another example of such collaboration, that recently the SCG group worked with Ratwiti Hospital in building the extended COVID ICU to add medical facilities for patients that have been increasing lately, particularly those ICU patients. And this extended COVID ICU facility can accommodate patients and was constructed within a parking lot, actually within 7 days. Yes, and you have some images there of the efforts to support the need of ICU beds. And of course, this is going on with all your cooperation, understanding, and efforts. As soon as I have a lot of more information, we'll be giving that to you. Please stay tuned. In the coming days, there will be important information coming out. Thank you very much for your attention for today. Have a happy weekend. Sawadee krap.